Wow, welcome everybody. It's Wednesday night here on the Paranormal Portal. Well, it's Wednesday night everywhere, I think, unless you're on the other side of the globe and then it's the next day or somehow that stuff all works. But it's Wednesday here, which is hump day, and hope you guys had a wonderful day, whatever you were doing, however you spent it. Most likely you were doing some kind of job or something. So hope it went well, but congratulations, it's over and you're here with me now, and I'm going to do my best to take care of you for the next 2 hours as well as I know how, which sometimes is a bit of a stretch, but I'm going to give you my all anyway. We got a lot of fun stuff ahead here on the portal for tonight. I've got a lot of things to go over with you. I think some really good things. Good to see you guys. And I see you guys are all piling in now, so that's wonderful. Thank you for being here and spending your evening with me. I give you 3 nights of my undivided attention, and that means so much that so many of you keep coming back. It's just awesome. It's going good, Donnie. See, how you doing? Good to see you. And Rachel's here. Sugar Britches is here. Maggie's here. Casey's here. The Fourth Color. Pharmacy's here. Sugar Britches. Chicken Legs, Rachel gets it right. Lori Barnes is here. And if I missed somebody so far, I'm sorry. But whoever's here, welcome. I think Portal Mom must be out there listening somewhere. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you just get me. And that means you are my co-host for tonight. So keep the chat rolling and keep any questions coming in the chat. And there's always the opportunity to call in if you choose to do so. You can call in and talk to me directly if you'd like. And the number for that is 720-923-0500. So maybe I should paste that. I should probably do that every show, right? Call in at, what is it? I always got to look. I have like this dyslexia for all kinds of things. I'm not really very dyslexic, but some reason names are one of my tough things. And remembering numbers is also tough. And I can usually recite them okay in the moment, but I always have trouble remembering them. Even like I got like goldfish attention span. So it's pinned to the top of the chat now. If you want to call in and be a part of the discussion, you sure can. I'd love to hear from you. I'm a little bit dealing with allergies, so I'm kind of a drippy mess, but I took a allergy thing, so hopefully that'll clear me up. But I'm just a mucusy mess right now. But at any rate, what did I want to say? I want to thank the sponsor for the Paranormal Portal, and of course, I'm speaking of Cryptid coin, ladies and gentlemen, and just know that every investment in cryptid coin is an investment in cryptid research and investigations, and it's really going to move the needle ahead for a lot of people, and it's a great opportunity to get involved if you choose to. It's available on PancakeSwap now, so I hope you guys will check it out, and that is cryptidcoin.io is the website to find out more information. Again, cryptidcoin.io. And special thank you to Cryptidcoin for sponsoring the Paranormal Portal. So I just can't thank them enough. It's really cool that they chose to believe in me. And of course, the show. So, all right. So let's continue on. Maggie, oh, thank you. That's very sweet. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. That means the world. It's really helpful. It's not it's howdy Ruger. Good to see you, brother. Let's see, anybody else come in that I didn't see before? Aggravated Progressive is here. Gotcha. And Gemini Moon came in. Good to see you, Gemini. And Casey Jones, I said hello to you before, I think. So Ghost Magnet's here. Good to see you. So everybody that's coming in, great welcome, and enjoy the journey as we keep diving deep into the recesses of the Paranormal Portal. So, let's see, what do I want to do first? I guess we'll do what we always do first, and that is the news. So if you're ready, I'm going to bring you some Paranormal Portal news, and hope you enjoy these articles I've curated for you. All right, everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Portal News Desk. I'm your anchor, Brent Thomas, and I'm going to do my best to get you informed about the happenings in the world, at least in a nutshell. Some weird things usually. I try to find the most bizarre things I can. Sometimes they're just exciting, newsworthy things, but not too often. I don't try to tread on actual, news program kind of stuff because, quite frankly, I like to keep it fun and light and interesting, and a lot of what's going on in the world is pretty sucky right now, so I don't want to bring down the vibe of the Paranormal Portal talking about all the problems. But you hear the helicopter coming? Yeah, that's what happens when you live near a helicopter path. So this is one, I think we covered this a while ago, but it's back in the news again. I guess it's a rehash or whatever, but if you ever see pictures of this, you can kind of understand how maybe there's some merit to it, is all I'm going to say. But let's check out the first article tonight from the amazing site called unexplained-mysteries.com. Check them out. It's an amazing site. They do a fantastic job over there. And they say, could whale genitalia explain sea monster sightings? Now, I have had the... I don't want to say anything too complimentary about it, but I've seen pictures of whale genitalia, and it looks like something's wrong. It doesn't look normal. Whale genitalia is not a handsome thing to see. It really looks like a weird tentacle coming out of them. It's just strange. And so that's what the merit of the story is. And let's read what it says. An ecology professor has put forward one of the strangest explanations for sightings of long-necked sea monsters. There you go. Tales of monstrous multi-tentacled sea creatures and long-necked serpents have been told and written about by mariners for centuries. And even today, some parts of the world, such as Scotland's Loch Ness, are said to be home to the mysterious aquatic denizen that science has yet to explain. I don't think there's a lot of whales in Loch Ness, though, so I'm not sure that the explanation can actually go that far because Loch Ness is not the ocean. It's an inland lake. So, according to Michael Sweet, a molecular ecology professor at the University of Derby, England, sightings of long-necked and tentacled sea monsters can be explained by way of something a lot more mundane: the genitalia of whales. You heard it right, folks. The genitalia of whales. Yes, that's right. He claims that the tentacled and alien-esque appendages emerging from the water in association with such sightings are actually whale wieners. I don't want to say that out loud. Incredibly, the theory, which might actually serve to explain at least some of the sightings, albeit only those in locations frequented by whales, which certainly rules out Loch Ness. Thank you. I appreciate that. In the open ocean, however, there is some plausibility to the idea. Still, it could be argued that an experienced mariner should know the difference between a giant sea monster and the male appendage of a whale sticking out of the water. Now, they do that. It's not like it's unusual. Apparently, when they're doing their mating deal, like they'll just sit there and roll around with their deal out. And I don't know if it's some kind of display that helps the whole process, or that maybe it wakes things up. I don't know what the hell's going on, but if you can look on Google and look up whale things, and you'll see what I'm talking about. They do look like they could be a sea monster in their own right, but I don't know that that's that necessarily quantifies the whole phenomena. I really don't think that that's probably it. Like, geez, we got one answer and it answers every other question mark. No, I don't think it's that convenient. I think it may have merit for explaining some percentage of the sightings over the time that people have been claiming there were sea monsters out there. But I think, these people saw some strange things. And given that we've only, explored 10 to 15% or 5% of the oceans, whatever it is, there's a lot out there we just have never seen yet and have never documented in science. So I don't think that answers the question. It's not like it's okay, case closed, move on. I think there's potential for a lot of things going on, and including sea monsters, believe it or not. So anyway, we certainly have land monsters, so it wouldn't surprise me a whole lot if there were sea monsters. And I don't mean to quantify every unknown thing as a monster. It's just a term. So not to offend any of the monsters out there. Yeah, you have my understanding. So that's the first one on the deck tonight. What a way to start out, huh? Boy, I can set a stage, can't I? It's a gift. It's truly a gift. I'd like to thank my mom for bringing me into this kind world. Here's the next one up on the roster of fun here on the Paranormal Portal newscast. And this is actually a follow-up one. I was kind of encouraged by this because I think this is somewhat exciting. At least it sounds encouraging to validate the authenticity of a religious artifact. And this is from unexplained-mysteries.com. The new test dates the Turin shroud to the time of Jesus. It says a new scientific testing technique has reportedly dated the iconic relic to the 1st century. So it could very well, at least it has possibility. It's not the 6th century. Believed by many to be the actual burial cloth of Jesus himself, the Turin shroud, which is today situated in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy, has long been the subject of intense scrutiny, controversy, and debate. One of the biggest points of contention regarding its authenticity is its age. If it were genuine, it would be expected to date back about 2,000 years to the time of Jesus. However, a prominent study conducted in 1988 using radiocarbon dating seemed to suggest that it was in fact only 700 years old, leading to suggestions that it was most likely a medieval forgery. Now, however, a new test using a technique known as wide-angle X-ray scattering, which is waxes, I guess, has contradicted the 1988 findings and indicated that the shroud really is 2,000 years old. According to the Italian scientists Liberato De Caro, radiocarbon dating is not a reliable technique for dating fabric, and the newer X-ray scattering method provides a more reliable result. Fabric samples are usually subject to all kinds of contamination, which cannot always be controlled and completely removed from the dated specimen, he told NCR. If the cleaning procedure of the sample is not thoroughly performed, carbon-14 dating is not reliable. In addition to dating the shroud to the time of Jesus, the scientists also discovered traces of pollen on the fabric that can be found only in the Middle East. If confirmed, it would add further evidence that the shroud was in fact the genuine article. Well, it's a genuine article, meaning that it is from the time of Jesus, perhaps, but is it indeed the burial shroud of Christ? And I don't know. I mean, I don't pretend to know such things, but it is more encouraging, of course, to give it that possibility. So very cool. That's kind of a new establishment or established possibility, and this was just from yesterday, so it's pretty brand new news. Kind of exciting for those of you with the faith of Christianity, and I think for everybody actually, because I think faith is wonderful no matter how you observe it. So very cool. I like that it's potentially the real deal. That's exciting. All right, let's go to the next article. And let's see, this one is, oh, all right. So there's a guy named Wim Hof, and he, I think, has the record for staying in cold, icy climates with basically nothing. I think he's done like jogging out in sub-zero temperatures and like negative temperatures. He does workshops as well to teach people how to do it. I watched a documentary on a team of people that went over and worked with him to get the technique that he uses in order to maintain his body temperature during the exposure to horrendously cold environments without much protection on at all, and sometimes literally in shorts, running barefoot in snow and stuff like that with just shorts on. I mean, it's just incredible. And it's another example of what I think, we're truly capable of if we're forced to push ourselves to that measure. We are actually capable of being superhuman, because our definition of human, I think, is very, very limited and very, very mundane. So are cold showers really as good for you as Wim Hof claims? The Dutch Iceman, Wim Hof, has mastered the cold, but can his technique really work for everyone? Oh man, this is pretty long. Well, I'm going to tell you, having watched the documentary, that yeah, it turned out that all of the people that participated were able to do some pretty incredible things with cold water and bathing in ice cold water runoff during a winter. And it was really incredible to see. I can't imagine it personally. I will tell you that for a while I dabbled with gold panning, and the streams up here are very cold because they're from the spring and melt off runs up here. So in the mountains, the water is really cold. And even the big lake out here, it doesn't really get warm for quite a while. It's very cold water here. And when I first went into the gold panning, I didn't really have rubber boots or anything. I just kind of had my flip-flops, but tried to do it from the shore, and little by little ended up walking out in the water. And when my feet first hit the water, it was like, oh my God, this is incredible. This is insane. But it was funny because after a while, it felt normal. I don't know. It's amazing how much our bodies can regulate and normalize things that would seem extreme. Now, this is not ice water. It's not that cold because it is running in liquid, but it was, much more frigid than I would ever take a shower at. And it actually hurt when I first stepped in it, but after a period of time, I was walking around in the water as if it was just fine. And it really surprised me. I didn't know I could, but it's kind of a really small example, a really light example of what this man has done. And you can see in this picture, he's submerged in a bunch of ice. But it has a lot to do with his breathing technique, having watched this show, and I thought that was really interesting. It's just the way that he breathes, and maybe that affects his metabolism and keeps things flowing and such. It's really pretty incredible. So very interesting. I think there's something really fascinating with that, because I think we're rewriting our potentials all the time. We have this very clinical understanding of the human being, but I think that we are so much more profound than that, and these kind of things really do illuminate that for us, I think. And that, and like parkour athletes doing things that are incredible that kinesiologists and doctors wouldn't have thought possible, but they can do it and not require surgery right afterwards. So the next one is from unexplained-mysteries.com is woman left terrified to go outside after a UFO experience. Wow. That's pretty horrendous. I don't know what her experience was, but this is funny. I do try to explain what it was that I saw, and it's very similar to this kind of a saucer shape, except This is what I talk about in my own experience seeing a UFO, was that the top plate and the bottom plate on the traditional flying saucer design come together to a point. But what I saw had a gap in between the top and the bottom, and it was these panels that were flashing in a marquee pattern around and around and around the object. And it was just really incredible, but it wasn't this tight, seam. It was this gap with these lights flashing around. It was really incredible. It says a close encounter in 1997 left Sasha Christie scared of leaving her house in fear of being abducted by aliens. For some people, witnessing a UFO can be a positive, life-changing experience, but for others, such as 51-year-old Sasha Christie, it can create anxiety and fear that endures for decades. Christie, who hails from Liverpool, England, had a close encounter 25 years ago. Myself, my ex-partner Steve, my son Louie, and 2 of the 3 of Steve's family members went on a short break to a small remote cottage, she recalled. At one point, Steve was pointing at these fluorescent lights in the sky that seemed to be getting bigger and closer. They moved towards us. As the clouds were so low, the shadows and shape of UFO made it look like bright, rippling jellyfish in the sky. The experience wasn't limited to the sighting alone, however. Louis had told me that something had touched his foot, and I believed him, but I wanted to look at the lights more to understand what was going on, she said. I stood there for another minute or so when suddenly I heard something running barefoot in the mud behind me, and all of a sudden it bumped into me as it ran past, and my chest exploded. What does that mean? What does it mean if your chest explodes? That sounds like a game over. Before I even realized what was happening, I was running back to the house in a panic, in complete hysterical blindness. The encounter had such effect on her that it left her with post-traumatic stress disorder, and she is now frightened to leave her house in case something similar happens again. I used to feel safe before, but seeing the UFO so close up has removed the bubble I used to live in, she said. I don't know what her chest explodes means, though, because if your chest explodes, that's where your heart is. That's where your lungs are. So if that, I mean, it can't mean that she had like the chest burster out from the Alien movies coming out, but I don't know what that means. I mean, maybe she just means that it was a painful feeling in her chest. I don't know. Very strange, though. Whatever the case is, I suppose if that was your experience, it would be hard to feel real comforted by seeing lights in the sky after that. But I don't know if that's really normal or not. But it is very unusual. So there's a UFO story in the news, folks, and got a couple more to go here. The next one up is from unexplained-mysteries.com, and this one is this is one of from David Bowie, actually. It has to do with David Bowie, Ghost and Hauntings. And from unexplainedmysteries.com, David Bowie was convinced that the ghost of his father was phoning him. I never heard about this before. The music legend, who himself passed away in 2016. God, has it been that long? Oh, man, that's flown. It doesn't seem like it could have been that quick. And that much time has gone away. Oh, God. All right, I'm sorry about that. Wow. I inhaled and whatever it was went right down my lungs. I got better, though. Okay, let's see what David Bowie's story is. Now my eyes are all watering. I'm okay. I'll be okay. Hold your concern. I'm fine. Throughout his incredible life, Bowie is no stranger to the out there themes, having based most of his famous stage persona, Ziggy Stardust, on the concept of an alien rock star who came to Earth with a message of hope. Back in 1969, however, Bowie had an experience that led him to believe that his late father, Haywood Jones, was attempting to contact him from beyond the grave. The story goes that in the days following the death of Jones, Bowie's telephone would mysteriously ring at the same time every day for a whole week. According to drummer John Cambridge, who knew Bowie, the phenomena had started after he had moved into a country house in Derbyshire. He said nobody even answered when he said hello, and he was convinced that it was his dad letting him know that everything was okay. Cambridge recalled. He added that the house itself was old, atmospheric, and a spooky place to the best of times. While he'd never directly experienced anything unexplained there, he'd heard from others who had. No explanation for the mysterious phone calls was ever found. Well, it could be. Wouldn't be the first time we've heard of that phenomena. Again, spirits being energetic. I don't think they have a whole lot of trouble influencing electronic devices. Seems to be some of the first things they do to get attention. So, and certainly we've had many stories in the history of the Paranormal Portal of people getting phone calls from their deceased loved ones. And I think it's fascinating, and I have to feel almost like jealous, like what an incredible experience that would be to have a chance to hear your loved one's voice once again, making a call to you, reaching out and saying, hey, I'm okay. And why it doesn't happen more, I don't know. I can't imagine how many things are at play to make it happen in the first place, but maybe it's just an extraordinary set of circumstances that only works once in a great while. Who knows? I mean, all we can do is speculate on what it is to be in the next life. And I don't pretend to know, because if I've been there, I don't remember. I don't know what's going on for sure, but very cool. Okay. So it could be, maybe his dad was phoning him. And then the last one for the night is, well, I think there's one more I wanted to cover. It's one I've had around for a while, but I might save it for Friday night show. Don should be back then. Yeah. So this last one is from unexplained-mysteries.com. Woman gets stuck after falling headfirst down a toilet. Oh, God. Yikes. That's not even nice. The poor woman. So what happened? The unfortunate woman ended up needing to be rescued after reaching into the toilet to grab her dropped phone. Is this like an outhouse? Is this what we're dealing with here? Oh, God. That phone's gone. That phone is dead to me if it's fallen in. If you've been in an outhouse, and I'm talking like campgrounds or whatever, there is nothing good in that hole. There is nothing good. I don't care if they piled gold in there with the other crap. It's just dead to me as soon as it goes in that hole. There is no way I would reach into that fudge nest and pull out anything at all. It's just gone. At that point, burn it with fire. Kill it. It's dead. Oh my God. Could you, I've got to believe some of you guys know what I'm talking about when you go to a campground or a festival and you go in there and you see the debauchery in that hole. It's just like, that is, oh God, that is about the most corrupt thing I've seen in my life. Don't try to get your phone. You got to love your phone to do that. I just think, you know what? I'm getting a new phone. This is done. It says a woman whose name was not disclosed. Oh, why she didn't want to be known, I guess, as the outhouse woman, had been at the top of Mount Walker in the Olympic National Forest, Washington State, when she needed to use the facilities. Don't use your phone in the outhouse. Do not. Unfortunately, however, she, while using the vault toilet, a non-flush lavatory, which consists of a shaft leading to a sealed container buried underground, she accidentally dropped her mobile phone. Oh. Desperate to retrieve it, she succeeded in removing the toilet seat and tried to use a dog lead to reach for it, but ended up losing her balance and falling in head first, resulting in her becoming trapped inside, unable to get back out. Oh, that poor woman. Oh, that'll scar you for life. That's just not even good. Luckily, she was able to locate her phone in the fetid gloom. The fetid gloom. Oh no, that's so rancid. And call for emergency services. Thanks to the help of the local fire department, she emerged from her ordeal uninjured. However, she was advised to seek medical checkup due to the exposure to human waste. I've been doing this for 40 years, and that was the first, said Fire Chief Tim Manley. Oh, that's a great place to end it up, huh? I just don't know. No. That phone is dead. It's gone. It's history. She went for it, though, folks. That's a woman that loves her phone. That's a woman who needs her phone. Ooh, that is just chilling. That is just chilling. Oh, God. Okay, so now I can see the chat again. So if you've got some things to say about that, would you get your phone? Let me know in the comments if you would get your phone if it fell into an outhouse kind of situation. That is just so wrong. Oh, I got chills. I got literal chills from that. Not the good kind, the kind that are like, oh, all right. Let's close out the news on that happy note. She got her phone back. Wow. That's the kind of thing that you just can't unremember. I sent you a potential video on Discord a few days ago for Trail Cam Terrors. Oh, okay. Thank you, Android. I appreciate that, brother. I'll look at it. I haven't been on there for a while. Here's the thing. In the next week, next Wednesday, so a week from tonight, I'm going to be not doing shows for Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and the next Wednesday, most likely. I may, depending on when I get back, I may do one the following Wednesday, but so we'll do shows this Wednesday tonight. Obviously, I'm here doing the show. I don't know how my head works, but we'll do Friday and Saturday, and that'll be the last live show for about a week and a half. So after that, we'll get back to it. But yeah, I'll look at it, and we can potentially do that on a Friday night show if at all possible. So yeah. I'm just looking at the chat now. Dan was a composting toilet underground. Wow. Little too attached to that phone. I'd say absolutely, farm. I hear you. That's the definition of a fat chance. Oh yeah. I don't know. No phone in hover. No phone in hover. Oh. Because you don't actually sit on those things. You hover is what you're saying. I got you. Yeah, I just those are the kind of things I don't like using them, and I wouldn't ever if I never had to. I think I'd rather dig a pit somewhere and just let it be my own personal compost toilet. But sometimes, I mean, just the horror in that hole is just horrible. It's whatever falls in is just, it's gone. Yeah. If it's a brick of gold, it would be just gone. It's dead to me. There's no going to get it. I don't know. It's kind of like one of those things. Would you do this for $1 million? Like, hell no. No. I mean, I don't not like money, but I don't like money so much that I would humiliate myself for it. It's just a tool. It's just a means to an end. But it's not the only means to an end. So, the things that people ask, yeah, it does happen. You're right, Digger. It was for her. It happened for her. That poor woman. I don't know. I think I'd need therapy after that. That's about as bad a situation as you could ever hope for. And not hope for, but ever experience, because that's a one-way ticket to therapy and a whole lot of shots, I'm sure. So I hope she's okay. I know you can always clean up. You can always, shower and get clean again. But I think I'd probably end up rubbing the skin off of my hands just because I wouldn't be convinced they were clean enough yet. It's just terrible. Terrible. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on and on about that, but that is it for the news. And we're back to the regular show. So, yeah, let me know. If you want to call in, you certainly can. And now that we're through the news, it's, again, 720-923-0500, and the number is pinned to the top of the chat. So look for it there. Or it's right up here above my head in little tiny numbers. that I always intend on making bigger, but I always get sidetracked. So I'm better now, kind of. Well, I'm glad you're better now. Is that a bath? Is that a bath emoji? I think, yeah, absolutely. Bleach, not enough in the world. Amen, Elise. I'm with you. Absolutely. Okay, so I've got a lot of other paranormal fun for us here tonight. Again, you guys are my co-hosts, so you're going to have to do this with me because I can only do so much. I'm only capable of so much. And I got to make this a little bigger, I guess. Bigger and bigger yet. Not just the font, but the size of the screen. My computer's acting like kind of doggy lately, so I'm got to do some cleaning up around here. And I guess I've got to start closing some of these tabs. I've got so many tabs open all the time. It's crazy. But it's because I like to keep things up. When I find them, I pull the tab over and get ready for, to use for a show. I'm always looking for information. And I did get an email about some information. Let me look at that quick. Oh, no, I don't have that open right now. I'll have to check again. But thank you to those of you who have sent things via email. And thank you to those of you that send them to the Discord as well. I just have been kind of chasing my tail in preparation for the next week. It's going to be a busy time for me. I do want to really encourage you, if you're not subscribed, get subscribed, because while I won't be doing the scheduled live shows, I will be doing live streams. And I'll let you know what's going on when I'm doing it. But it's some pretty cool things that are going to be going on. And I will do some live streams with you so you can see it for yourself and talk about what's going on and what we're looking into. So watch out for that. And if you haven't rung the bell, I don't know when these times are going to be for sure. So ring the bell so you get notified if we go live. So subscribe and ring the bell. And then you'll be able to catch those live streams when they happen to, hopefully some cool things. But at any rate, let's get back to our show, or at least to some more paranormal goodness. This is an article I pulled up from Money Awaits. And again, it's a website. It's a moneyawaits.com website. This is another site that does the Reddit aggregations. So they pull content from Reddit threads and stuff. And they're really very great articles. I'm really impressed with these articles because they're very well done. I don't know who did this one. I was looking for some way to attribute it to an author, but I don't see one. But it comes from moneyawaits.com. And again, I think it's just it's a finance, business, careers kind of site. But they did this article. Emergency workers share the cases that had to have supernatural causes. Now, I'm going to open this for a second. Again, special thanks to Cryptid Coin, but I'm going to close that because I got to use this frame to do this part of the show. There we go. And here it is. This is the article. Again, from moneyawaits.com. And this is from their home careers. I don't know how it's part of a career, but anyway, I guess because it's talking about emergency workers. So let's find the first one here. And number 35, frozen possession. And this first one says, I'm a police officer. I was driving along and found a girl just standing in the middle of the road. My initial thought was just to tell her to pay attention, but it was clear that while the lights were on, nobody was home. During my whole time with her, she never uttered a word. I was left in a weird situation. She had done nothing, clearly needed help, but physically, nothing seemed wrong. As I'm pondering what on earth I should do, the girl suddenly starts spinning. Now, spinning is not illegal, and I'm starting to think that this girl is one of those protesters that wind up police. I've dealt with troll situations before, so I think crack on, spin to your heart's content. Then she loses her balance and falls, whacking her head on the side of the police car. Great, so I call an ambulance, but she seems fine. Still not talking, but she's looking up at the sky. It's a nice day, so fine, enjoy the sun. I do some writing and look back at her now bright red face and watering eyes and realize she's trying to damage her retinas by forcing herself to look directly at the sun. That's a new one on me. So now I'm holding a book or something above her to shield her eyes. Ambulance arrives, and now we get to the hospital, and now she's forgotten how to walk. Now, I'm 99% sure she's a wind-up merchant, but I get her to a wheelchair. In the wheelchair, she strikes up a I'm a little teapot pose and keeps this up for the next hour. 0 movements, just frozen with her arms out. So now I have 3 potential situations. She's pretending to be frozen in time. She's suffering from a mental health issue. She has been possessed. But now I'm convinced it's the latter. But I section her and leave her with professionals. A week later, I call the hospital and they tell me she is still frozen. A week? Nobody can hold a pose for a week. That's not normal. I can hardly hold a pose for 5 minutes. I mean, I don't even know if I can. I think even when I'm sleeping, I'm not staying in the same position for too long. But this is a week and she's still in the teapot pose. I'm thinking that's this deal, right? I don't know. The whole teapot, short and stout. This is my handle. Here's my spout. Thank you very much. But a week, really? That doesn't seem possible. That was by Rob using Reddit. Okay. Number 34. Young girls are creepier than any monster. My brother was a deputy at the time, and at the time I worked as an EMT for a few small towns in northeast Colorado. I frequently, I'm hunting rabbits. I frequently went on ride-alongs with him while waiting for 911 calls to come in. This took place in Amherst, Colorado. The town is very small and has about 50 people. A church, some houses, a grain tower, and a park. It was about 3 a.m. and we were about to call it a night, and as we're making our last check on Amherst, we noticed movement at the park but couldn't tell exactly what was going on because it was pitch black. We drove up and stopped alongside the dirt road, flipped on the spotlight, and as we moved the light around the park, it finally settled on the back of a young girl, maybe 13, sitting on a swing with her back facing us. We left the spotlight on her. She wasn't moving. She just sat there facing away from us, looking down at the ground. Needless to say, it was a very creepy situation. We both looked at each other with that face you'd make when something is out of the ordinary. I quickly suggested that we should call her over using the PA system. He agreed. As we look back over, she was gone. I mean, no signs of anyone anywhere. The park was in a wide open area. She couldn't have gotten out of sight in the short amount of time that we had exchanged our words. I remember saying, should we get out and look for her? Maybe she hid behind one of the park toys or something. My brother just looked at me and said, heck to the no, and we drove away. It still creeps me out to this day. That's by Grape Juice 89. Yeah, that's not what you want to see when it's the proverbial little girl sitting on a swing kind of thing. It's like, no, not at 3 a.m. or whatever. That's all kinds of creepy. Number 33, Fairy Prince. Fairy Prince? Okay. Years ago, my uncle told us about a woman who would call the police station just about every night, claiming that fairy or elves were breaking into her house and stealing her food. As is custom, every time she calls, they send a unit to check on her. My uncle gets it about 2 or 3 times per week. Every night they stop by her house to reassure her that no one has broken in and to calm her down. One night when he gets to the house, she's poured powdered sugar all over the floor to record their tracks. And my uncle says he literally has to do a double take. All over the floor in her kitchen are these little tracks, tiny like nothing he's seen before. His partner starts taking photos and trying to figure it out. A few other officers come in, as most of them had gotten the call to her house too, and want to see it. 10 police officers, all completely baffled as to what these weird prints are. Well, that's really cool. And that's actually an old parapsychology technique, is to spread chalk or flour or powdered sugar on the floors where disembodied footsteps are heard to see if there's any tracks left. And so that's very interesting. And it's not just in those circles, of course, it's probably used in a lot of situations. But yeah, that's really wild if they actually had prints. Anxiety, depressed, fun did that one. That's crazy. Fairies breaking into the house. Of course, when we had Robin Moonshadow on, she talked about the house elves, so maybe it's a house elf. I don't know if they walk around barefoot or what they, I'd like to have known, what did these prints look like? They look like little bare feet, or were they little shoed feet or moccasin feet, or what? What was the prints? That'd be really interesting to hear. That was by Anxiety, Depressed, Fun. Number 32, still looking out for us. I was a police officer working the desk, 1500 to 2300. Fire alarm signal goes off many, many years ago. The police department offered alarm monitoring service, and it was too complicated to remove, so we left it. The first shift dispatch is already punched in, so she took it. I'm headed out the door to the fire department when 911 rings from the same address. I answer it, and I heard no one on the other end, assuming they barely got to call before passing out. I bolt out the back door, hop in a squad car, radio the 911 call on channel 3 that both police and fire can hear, that I'm going directly to the house. Arrive just as another unit shows up. No signs of smoke, no signs of anything. An older woman comes walking up the street, pushing a wheelchair with an elderly lady, her mother. They live there, and they just went out for an early evening stroll before dinner. We tell them what we have going on, and nobody else lives there, and as far as the elderly lady can remember, the alarm was disconnected from the house years ago during some renovations. They don't have an alarm system either, just a couple of smoke and fire detectors. We do a walk around the house, get to the back door of the kitchen, and you can clearly see and smell gas. We turned off the gas at the main, set up some fans to air it out, and find a cracked gas line going to the oven. The daughter said she spilled some coffee she was making for their walk and had to move the oven a few inches to clean. It probably broke the line, pushing the oven back in. Nothing else in the house was disturbed, and both phones were on the hook. Fire chief shows up about 15 minutes into the call. He goes over to the two ladies and gives them both a hug. He's nearly in tears. The elderly lady in the wheelchair, her husband was the fire chief 60 years ago for our department. The daughter's husband passed away a few years ago when he was also a member of our department. I never believed in ghosts or spirits, but that call made me think maybe people who spend their lives doing good are allowed by some power to look over their loved ones every so often. Wow, that's amazing. So just moving that oven, that gas line must have been very dated then, if it was that brittle. But that's incredible. Nobody even had an alarm. There was no alarm to ring, and yet it rung. And the 911 call, that nobody was there. That's really cool. That was by Grizzled_Treats. What do you guys think of that one? Do you like that one? I think that's very powerful. Very, very powerful. Again, it's one of those situations where it's a neat thing that it happened, but you got to wonder, why doesn't it happen more? Why don't more people have this? And I guess even as I ask that, I think sometimes maybe things are supposed to happen. And it's hard to swallow. It's hard to even digest, but maybe sometimes things are supposed to happen, and maybe sometimes they're not. And in those situations, they can receive an intervention or something to keep them from happening. I don't know. I like to think that life has a plan. Like there's a rhythm to all of this. It's not just this chaotic, orchestra of events. There's an underlying theme to it all, And that you can take that to mean whatever you wish. I'm not trying to convince you to believe anything, but it's just my own personal feelings. I think there is something to it. Ghost right. Yep, I think it's good too. Thanks, Alice and Maggie. I appreciate it. Divine intervention, you bet, Natalie. I think so too. My brother came back and talked to me after he died. Wow, Lori. Is that a dream or was that an actual experience? Did you see him or was it a dream experience? Because I've experienced the dream state conversations with people that I love that have passed. I've had a few of them, and they're just so incredibly profound. But I'd love to hear more about your experience. That's incredible. So let me know. I'll keep watching. I'll keep checking back. I'll read the next one and I'll check back and see. Saved by an Angel is the next one, 31. He went to a call. I'm not sure who, where a father had gone crazy and decided to hurt his family. I think I've heard of this one. If this is the one I'm thinking of, it has to do with a little boy, and it's absolutely heartbreaking but awesome at the same time. You'll see what I mean if it's the same one. He got rid of his wife and was looking around trying to find his 5-year-old son. The boy had run outside and was trying to hide on the side of the house behind the trash cans. Well, the father eventually found him and point blank emptied nearly a full magazine at the boy. When my dad arrived, they found the boy in shock, hiding right where his dad found him. Not a wound on his body. There were bullet holes in the side of the house all around the boy. When they finally got to question him about it, they asked what happened when his dad found him on the side of the yard. The boy replied, "The angel was in front of me with a shield, and he saved me. He pushed the gun away from me." That's a very abbreviated version of the story, which makes me believe that this was somebody using another account, but giving it credit to some person. Anyway, that was by 9 Oreos, and I have heard that before. It was obviously a much more gruesome story in that I think, for whatever reason, the father just went crazy and of course did take out his wife and was going to take out the son. And this is a little boy. And it was such an amazing story because that's basically the exact same thing that I read in the other story. It's like this boy was, being shot at and never hit once at point blank range. And he claimed in the other story as well that an angel appeared and shielded him from the bullets. And I think, my God, how amazing is that? But how still tragic, how incredibly tragic, because of course this child has to grow up knowing that he doesn't have two people that should be there for him. And I think that is so incredibly tragic because, it's incumbent to, care for our children, I guess, and being a parent, I've done the best I can, not always the greatest, but the best I know how. And, it just breaks my heart that this child grows up with that knowledge, but at least growing up with the knowledge that there was an amazing intervention of divine origin. And I think that's beautiful. So let's continue and go to the next one. What did Lori say? I'm sorry. Let's see. What am I missing here? What is it? I know my dad has surely been with me during all these investigations too. I feel him around. Drops one infinite light. Yeah. That's really cool. Drop infinite light. I think that's awesome. It was while sleeping, but I know it was real. I agree. So I've shared it on the show many times, but I'll give you the version again of what happened. My dad passed away a few years back now, and unfortunately, I wasn't there. I live quite a far ways away from where my parents live, and in Minnesota, and his passing was tough, I guess, because and even after his passing, I just had this heavy brick knowing that I wasn't there with my family. And it's just one of those things I just couldn't be. I couldn't make that happen. But my dad and I had, I guess, we're both very stubborn people, and I'm a Taurus, so you know how that works. But and he and I loved each other dearly, but we also would bump heads, and we would have this hot and cold relationship. And it was, I know it was just me being a kid, him being an adult, and him coming from a whole different lifestyle and me not willing to embrace that. So it was like this constant pressure back and forth. There was lots of love, and it's in our own unique way. It was just, it just, we had challenges. So I guess one of the hardest parts of that, of his passing, was not having those words, not having the opportunity, or taking the opportunity, I guess is a better way to put it, to heal that, to release that. And I went home and visited him while he was, sick. He had COPD and was fading, but he was just, very different from me in so many ways. We're just not very much alike. But his passing, of course, happened, and it was one of those things. I wasn't there. I wasn't with my family when, the grieving was going on, and it was this isolating feeling, and the regret is what I think is the hardest, because I still was carrying all those things that I would have loved to have laid down and put to rest, and had missed that opportunity. So I went to sleep one night, and I was actually sleeping well, which doesn't happen often for me. And suddenly, in this dream state, but more real than this moment, or any waking moment of my own, it was just so incredibly real. I was standing in my mom and dad's house, and in front of me was standing my dad. And I was like, Dad, we've missed you. How are you? And all this incredible moments. And he put his arms out, and I rushed to him, and we embraced, and it was this incredibly profound experience. And I apologized to him, and he apologized to me in this moment, and we were hugging, and I just had tears rolling out of my eyes, and I'm getting teary now just recalling it. But and then it was, it was just this incredible moment. I apologized to him for not being a better son, and he apologized for not being a better father, and it was just beautiful, and it was so cathartic and healing. And then suddenly, it was like he squeezed me so hard, and I could feel it. I could feel the way he felt. I could smell the way he smelled. It was just so incredibly vivid and real. And then we, the embrace ended, and like he took a step back, and boom, it was just over. And I was waking up in bed, and I was just bawling. My whole face was just soaked. But it was so incredible, because I believe that was real. I believe that our loved ones can come to us in our dream state the easiest, because that's when all of this isn't in our way. We're so much more open when we're sleeping, and we maybe tap into those parts of us that are dormant when we're awake. And so those communications can happen. And so, yeah, I believe yours was real, because I know mine was. And it was like I had a moment to heal that I thought was lost. I thought it was lost. I thought I would have to carry that for my whole life. So it was so incredibly powerful. And he appeared a couple more times in my dreams too. He hasn't for quite a while now. And that's okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what do they do for sure over there in that experience. But he makes himself known every once in a while. Mostly in the year following his passing, he was very active at my mom's house, and turning on his TV and stuff. So I know he's around. And there's a few shows that I've covered some of the things that were happening, and some of the things that we believe he was doing. And so that's my story. So I have no doubt that what you experienced was very real, because it was real for me. And even if it wasn't, it was and is. You know what I mean? I really do firmly and wholeheartedly believe that he came to me in that state. But if somebody out there says, no, that didn't happen, that was just you psychologically needing to have that closure, so you created that subconscious experience. Well, in either case, I was able to put down something that was so heavy in my life. And that's a beautiful thing, even if it wasn't as real as I believe it was. But I do, because every part of the sensation was more real than sitting here talking to you now. It was just absolutely profound. So thank you for sharing that. That really is so powerful. Very cool. Yeah, she says it was real. Yeah, it was. I don't have any doubt. All right. The next one, I'm sorry to go into that segue, but I think those are things that are important. I mean, talking about these things is powerful. And thank you, Android. I appreciate that. How long after his passing was the experience? I think it was about 6 months-ish. Maybe a little longer, but right around 6 months. There seems to be a window of time where if they don't come right away, they need a little bit of time before they can come. And I don't know why. Maybe it's how the state of the soul. I don't know. I mean, I don't mean to imply one is better or worse. It's just sometimes but it seems commonly many people experiencing their loved ones seems to be months, about 6 months-ish. I know that I came on the show the very next night and talked about it because I was doing shows every night then. 7 shows a week on YouTube. That was a long schedule every week, but I loved it. I still would do it, but it's getting more and more to do shows. It's tough to always find material to fill up shows, so I had to back off, and it was probably tearing me down doing so much because we were doing 7 live shows on YouTube and then 3 podcasts at the time per week. So it was 10 shows a week I had to put together. It was a lot to lift. So that's why I've cut back to just 3 live shows now because there's just a lot more going on. So anyway, but thanks for indulging me, letting me share that with you guys. I know the show isn't about me, but it's certainly about the paranormal. And I think those are very paranormal, real experiences for sure. Number 30, the worst of the worst might still be around. I'm a second-generation firefighter. My father spent the latter days of his career as a fire safety director and a massive mental asylum. Our state version of OSHA had to come and do inspections at the facilities, and his was no exception, so the OSHA inspectors make their way to an abandoned part of the facility that used to house the criminally insane. The absolute worst of the worst. My father left them with keys and a flashlight because the electricity didn't work. The inspectors were radioing back to my father that they kept hearing talking and footsteps, which was impossible. Not even squatters could move around because each section was isolated with locked doors to prevent escape. Eventually, the inspectors gave up and actually ran out without finishing. My dad decided to stick around and check the alarm boxes that they didn't. As he was checking one of the alarms, he felt as if someone was watching him from down the hall. As he looked, a shadow formed with a head and shoulders, torso, but no legs, and just 2 holes where the eyes should be. My dad noped the heck out of there. That's Rust Death Taxes submitted that one. Yeah, I don't blame you. I think there's certain places where people just aren't welcome, and that sure sounds like one. Now, it just goes to show you that, you kind of think, when you think of mental illness, you think it's a condition of brains, of a biochemical issue or dysfunction in the brain to process information normally. But in cases like this, there's no more brain. There's no more biochemical anything. And yet there's still some kind of darkness that persists. And maybe it's what gets shed off of people becomes its own entity. Who knows? Just from exposure, all the psychic imprints that are left in a place like that. Maybe they can coalesce into something of their own darkness. Perhaps all of those energies can become things of their own. And that's a kind of a scary thought because there's a lot of places like that around. But I can't blame them. I don't think I'd stick around, watch some torso staring at me. That's kind of the end of my interest. I think I'd try to get it on film and share it with you guys, but other than that, yeah, it's tough. It's double tough. All right. Number 29, voices and figures. Cop, real call. Nice. You can tell it's written by a no-nonsense person. Cop, real call. I wish I had suspenseful music to offer you, but that's the intro. I've been on patrol for several years and love stuff like this. I had a backup officer with me who witnessed everything. Dispatch sent me to a call in the mountain area late one night, and dispatch said the caller reported several people holding a baby above their heads and chanting while standing on her property. The call sounded ridiculous, and I smirked as the dispatch gave the details. I arrived at the proper address after driving about 20 minutes along a mountain road. There was not much else up there. It was extremely quiet. No one walked around out there, and there weren't very many cars driving that late. I walked along a gated driveway through a lightly wooded area. I found the caller's house with 2 dim lights near the front door. The house was surrounded on 3 sides by heavy woods. I felt a little uneasy just looking at the house. I knocked at the front door of the house while standing on a large patio, and I heard something move to my left, which startled me because it was close. It sounded like a person, something big. I looked to the left, used my flashlight to light up the patio. I didn't see anyone. Excuse me. I continued to knock, and I could hear 2 voices inside the house. I clearly heard a male and a female, and this made me feel a little better. I thought I heard someone on the patio, but it must have been someone inside. The female eventually opened the door. She was terrified, almost crying, and she asked me to come inside and to close the door. She led me to the living room where I saw a very cheap security monitor, almost like a baby monitor camera setup, with audio and video playing. The camera setup only provided a live feed. The camera was positioned to view the front door and patio area where I was just standing. The audio was silent as I watched the monitor for a few seconds. The woman began to explain when I interrupted and asked where the male was inside the house. I heard his voice. She looked confused and said she was here alone. I was surprised because I know for a fact I heard a male's voice when I knocked, and I asked her several times and initially thought she was lying to me. My partner checked the house and did not find anyone. The woman said she was reading while sitting on the couch when she heard something over the security camera. She looked at the display and saw 2 people on the patio standing at the front door. She heard knocking at the door and called the police. I looked at the monitor, and although it was low quality, I could see the patio and front door area with decent clarity. As the woman continued to explain, the audio on the monitor went from quiet to extremely loud. We all stopped talking. The caller was shaking. I looked at the monitor but didn't see anyone. Loud audio continued to blast from the speakers. The audio sounded like wind, but it was not windy that night. I asked the woman, "What is that?" And she said, "It's them." I looked at my partner, who was nervous. The woman gave me her cell phone, stating she took pictures of the monitor showing the 2 people on her patio. I looked through several low-quality pics and didn't see anything. I continued to scroll, and sure enough, I saw what looked like 2 tall figures standing at the door. One of the figures was holding something. The figures looked strange, all dark, and featureless in contrast to the video I saw on the monitor. I was in disbelief and thought, oh my God, she's telling the truth. I continued to scroll and saw one figure holding something up over its head. Another picture showed the item at the base of the door with both figures standing near it. I tried to reason to explain what could have caused these images, but it was pretty apparent that there had been 2 subjects on her patio. We checked outside, walking the property to the tree line. I mentioned the movement on the patio and the male's voice from inside the house. My partner asked me to stop talking about it. Yeah, I'm sure. That's one of those situations where you don't need to relive it quite yet. Just do your job. We finished checking and returned to speak with the caller. She said that she would be driving into town and staying at a hotel because she was too scared to stay there for that night. We walked along the driveway back to our cars. My partner jumped into the patrol car and took off. I laughed, but I felt really uneasy standing there in the dark, and I left shortly afterwards. That was by Landy0034. Wow. It's hard to understand how much is going on in our world. How much is going on and what is going on that we just can't perceive. I think about that stuff all the time, And again, this is a statement I made years ago on the show, but I've heard it many times since. And I'm not saying it was because I said it, but it certainly is the truth. I mean, our eyes are tuned to a specific spectrum of the light field. Our ears are tuned to a specific range of audio. And our other tactile senses are only tuned to, what's pretty much immediately right in front of us. But what is going on that we don't see and don't experience directly? It's just a little bit uneasy. I don't know. and I don't pretend to know. That's the thing. But I'll tell you that through the course of doing the show, I have learned so much about this stuff in terms of possibilities, mostly. I don't pretend to understand any of it still. Excuse me, but I have theories. But I just have learned so much about what possibilities there are. And I've just come to realize that there's no finite amount of things that could happen. It's literally infinite. I mean, it's just, I don't know. When I started doing the Paranormal Portal, I thought I knew this stuff. I thought I knew it because I'd been looking at everything I could get my hands on ravenously, looking for information and stories and experiences and listening to shows. And I thought, well, I got a pretty good handle on this stuff. I'll do a show. And man, I had no idea. I just had no idea. The amount of things that I've learned since doing this show eclipses what I thought I knew by at least 100-fold, if not more. It's just crazy. I got a cough. I'm sorry. Just give me a second. These allergies are just wiping me out. There, I feel a little better. That tickling in the throat area is just like, oh, drives me crazy. Number 28. Oh, dear God. Raising the Dead. Another great, this must be a law enforcement kind of intro. Copier. It's like, okay, all right, I'm paying attention. My partner and I were dispatched to a welfare check. Elderly guy. Nobody'd seen him in a few days. Mail overflowing in the mailbox. Missed the doctor's appointment, and the car hasn't moved, etc. And we both know we're about to find a body. We arrive on the scene and can't get anyone to the door. Look through the window, and sure enough, we can see his foot on the floor in the living room. My partner is a corporal and pulls rank and makes me go first. Jeez, nice guy. The door is unlocked, and as soon as we open it, it smells a mostly fresh body. Almost relieved, we both enter, and he tells me to check vitals on the dead dude. He's obviously dead, so I go and stand over him and see if I can get a pulse, at which point he takes a deep breath, rolls over, and asks why we're in his house. At this point, we both start screaming as we run out of the house. We call EMS, and they transported him. They said they couldn't get a blood pressure or pulse on him. I think he died a week later in the hospital. I still get jokes about raising the dead. Oh my God. That's a strange story. I have another strange story, and this is one from a relative of mine who was in law enforcement for years up in Michigan. And he tells me the story that happened to a state trooper that he was good friends with. And the story goes that this friend gets a call as a welfare check. Again, very similar to the format of this story. And I imagine maybe this stuff happens quite a bit for law enforcement because they're the ones that get to do this stuff and get to go in on all the bad stuff. Yeah, me too, Landroid. Android says, with every experience, I learn something new from. Yeah, I learn more too. But in this case, the welfare check came. So the guy went, and it was in the winter time, in the dead of the Michigan winter. And where this old guy lived was on a pretty rural road. And in fact, it had just snowed a bunch, 8 to 12 inches. And so this road was not even plowed to go up to the house. So the trooper had to leave his cruiser about a quarter mile from the house, walk up a quarter mile of the road to the driveway, walk into the house. He gets to the house, and inside he goes to the front door and looks over. There's a window next to the front door, and he sees the old man sitting there watching TV. You can see the TV flickering, and the old man's just sitting in a chair, and looks like he's watching TV. The guy's like, oh, okay, well, he's okay. So he knocks. Nothing. The figure in the chair doesn't budge. It doesn't move. It's like, oh, maybe he's asleep, but knocks again, pounding, announcing, this law enforcement, blah, blah, blah. And no activity. The guy's not moving, not doing anything. You can see that he's watching TV, though. Apparently his eyes were open and looked like they were blinking. And he's like, what's going on? So he decides to go check the back door of the house. So he walks around the house and goes to the back of the house. Tries that door. It's locked, too. And he can't get any response. So he's like, I got to get in. So he busts the door open, goes in, gets in just a few feet from the back door. In the hallway between the kitchen and the living room is the old guy laying, having been deceased for quite a while. He goes into the living room. There's no TV on. There's nobody sitting in the chair. There's nobody else in this house. But for this officer, it looked like the guy was sitting there watching TV. And perhaps some version of him was. Maybe he didn't realize that he hadn't survived. He was dead for quite a while. But it's a very strange story. And it's pretty incredible. Take it or leave it. I believe it. I know my cousin believes it. And I believe he wouldn't tell me a story like that he didn't believe was absolutely factual. So, but again, it's just strange. It's strange. What can happen? Anything can happen. All right, let's go to the next one. What is the time? Good God, it's already after 8. Oof. Man, these portals go fast. All right, number 27, the nice woman. I'm a detective and spent some time as an expert on crimes against children. Oh, dear God. It's the best/worst assignment I've ever had. One case I had come in at midnight. A young woman with a toddler comes in to one of the precincts to report her ex-boyfriend assaulting her during a custody argument. Long story short, it was legit and one of the most violent and sadistic cases I've ever had, so I'll spare the gruesome details. I still have no idea how this woman made her own way to a precinct with a toddler. Part of the investigation requires me to talk to the toddler. The victim said the toddler was present for everything. I'm a child forensic interviewer as well, and during the interview, the toddler recalls their father becoming angry and hitting the mom. Then, the toddler said that the nice woman showed up and she couldn't see past the nice woman. The nice woman held her and told her that they were both going to be safe and sang her a song in a different language. The toddler said the nice woman bent over to the front door and knocked on the door. Then the nice woman helped them and their mom to the car before flying away. In the victim's interview, what the hell is that? Mods, get rid of that, will you? Just ban that, please. Oh, you did. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, you got to ban it. Don't just time out. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's crazy. I guess we're making a bigger time for the portal. That's a good sign of growth in a real sadistic way. Anyway, back to the story. Then the nice woman helped them and their mom to the car before flying away. In the victim's interview, she said that her ex-boyfriend was about to kill her, but he got distracted for some reason and then ran out of the apartment. She had no explanation why. The suspect was caught about 8 hours later, and he confessed to absolutely everything. And when I asked him about the knife to the throat, he said this: I swear to God, I was going to end her, but I thought I heard a knock at the door and thought it was the police. Once I saw it was clear, I ran outside. He's now serving life in prison, and the mom and the toddler are safe and doing well. I'd love to know more about the nice woman. And we don't have any way to accredit that to anybody, but that's a fascinating story. How about that? Did that get it? It did get banned. Yeah, it was hidden. Thank you guys for taking care of that. Got the greatest mods in the world. You guys rock. Thank you. Number 26, make a pit stop. My dad was in the police force for 20 years, and when he was just a rookie, he had to conduct a nighttime roadblocks meant to catch inebriated drivers. Ooh. They'd done it many times before, and this night started routine enough for them. And that was until this Toyota Corolla drove up to them with what looked like a white blanket on its roof flapping in the wind. They thought it was weird, but did not see anything amiss about it, and one of them even joked that this guy was multitasking by drying his laundry and driving home at the same time. The laugh stopped when the lone car came closer, and all of them saw what looked like a woman in white lying face down on the top of the car. The woman seemed to slide like a slug backward until she disappeared behind the car, as it eventually came to a stop in front of them. It took a few minutes for my dad's team to recompose themselves as they staring at each other as if to say, "You guys saw that, right?" The most senior of them finally stepped up and shot the usual questions to the driver. There was a noticeable quiver in his voice as he made the conversation and asked him to step out of the vehicle. My dad's team inspected the whole vehicle, including the boot, and found nothing strange in it. The driver was a good-looking staff sergeant in the Army who was heading home for a company event earlier that night and admitted to having had a few. He said he laid down in his bunk to sleep it off, hence why he was driving home at that time. It was 4 a.m. He passed the sobriety test, and they started to ask him if he saw anything weird during his drive. Initially, he said no, but after more questioning, he mentioned that he had to swerve to avoid what looked like a bird that was flying upside down. It was spooky, but he didn't think that was a detail worth sharing with police officers. Then the senior told the guy to chill out at a 24-hour coffee shop before heading home. The locals believe that if a malevolent spirit follows you, making a pit stop confuses them so they can't set up shop in your house. After some confusion of his own, the driver finally caught on and nodded in agreement. After the guy leaves, they call into the station and cut the night short. Never knew what happened to the driver. I hope he's all right. That's Mima. So it sounds like it's from an Asian country. That's very interesting. Oof. So the idea is if you feel like a spirit's following you, you're supposed to stop at a coffee shop and hang out for a while. It confuses them. That's good advice. Maybe it works. I don't pretend to know. Very strange, though. Number 25, like no one else was there. Like no one was ever there. Sorry. Where I grew up, there was an abandoned factory that high school and college kids will visit, usually around Halloween, because it's scary enough in the dark. It also houses a decent amount of homeless people, so once every few months, the cops will come in, do a sweep, and force anyone there to leave. One night, my uncle is working, and there's a call to the non-emergency line saying there's a lot of movement at the building, that the caller can see light on every floor, but the first. My uncle and a few other officers respond. Dang it. No more than 10 minutes have gone by when my uncle gets there. There's no one around, but there's plenty of light pouring out from the openings where the windows once were. The officers all agree it looks more like fire than flashlights, so they call the fire department as a precaution. They walk into the first floor and start searching for the stairs. They find them and ascend to the second floor. There's no light anywhere. Same with the third, fourth, and fifth floors. They sweep the entire building, every nook and cranny, and even the roof. There's no light source and no one there that they can find. Sorry about that. I need another drink. Sorry. The fire department had arrived shortly after. They went in, and they couldn't see anything from the outside other than the subtle glow of flashlights, which was faint. Nothing like what my uncles and the others had seen. But my uncle said that what was even more unsettling was that none of the homeless areas, which were usually comprised of piles of trash, along with cardboard boxes and blankets, were there. Not that they didn't find any homeless people, but that there was no sign that anyone had been there at all, ever. I'm not sure what to make of that one. And again, it's deleted, so we can't attribute that to anybody, but I'm not sure what that means. No sign, I mean, not that they didn't find any homeless people, but that there was no sign that anyone had ever been in there at all, ever. So they just found homeless people huddled, and that was it? No belongings? I don't know. That one's weird to me. What is this? You should a few days off for yourself, Brent. Oh, no, I can't do that. I love doing these shows. I mean, make no mistake. I sometimes force myself to do shows when I'm not feeling well, but it's because I really love doing them. I love getting together and talking about this stuff. I love sharing my thoughts and ideas and hearing yours. That's a big part of my life. So the portal is really and truly a labor of love. It's in no way is it an obligation, although I do feel an obligation to try to bring you the best shows I can, because you guys are all spending your time here with me as well. So, but it's never a task. It's never a task that I'm not excited about. It's just, I don't always feel like when I do finally take nights off, you can be sure that it's because I can't hardly talk, or I'm just so miserable that I just know I can't bring you a show that you deserve. So that's the one thing that keeps me from doing shows, but not for a lack of wanting to be here. I love this. This is truly one of my great passions in life. All right, so there's more. Do you guys want me to continue on this, or did you want to go to something else? Let me see what time it is, because I got a few from Phantoms and Monsters that I want to go through too. Because these stories are wonderful. I love them. I really do. But there's still more. So I think I'll stop here. Let's local honey. Yeah. I don't know. I know we have local honey, but it's just like everything else is. I wish I was a person of extreme means that I go, oh yeah, I need local honey sourced from organic farmers, and I'll go to the local farmers market. It's not open yet here, by the way, the local farmers market, but I'm sure it will be soon, and that would certainly be a good idea, because I've heard that that's a good way to treat allergies, is taking and consuming local honey. But it's just these conifer trees up here are so polleny, and I'm from the Midwest, and this is a new kind of pollen to me. I've only been here 8 years, and I'm still not very used to it. So springs are often pretty froggy for me. But anyway, let's go to some articles from Phantoms and Monsters. I hadn't realized I hadn't switched it back, had I? Well, let me do this first. Let me pull up the actual article I want to read for you. This first one, again, special thanks to phantomsandmonsters.com. This is Lon Strickler's site. He's given his blessing to us to cover some of the articles on here. And it's just a fascinating site. If you haven't checked out Phantoms and Monsters, please do. It's a great repository for accounts and encounters, but it's also they've also got active research going on there into cryptid subjects and Fortean subjects. So it's really some fascinating stuff, as well as the Phantoms and Monsters Radio, which is the podcast that Lon puts together. And that's pretty fantastic too. So lots of fantastic things going on here. So I really appreciate it. And special thanks to Lon for letting us do this. But this is an article from April 22nd, 2022. And it is Bigfoot encounters recently reported at Uwharrie National Forest, North Carolina, Yates Place Campground. What is farm saying? Capture and eat the pollen will kill the allergies. Really? I've never heard that one before, farm. That's kind of new. I'd rather eat the honey. Not sure what does pollen taste like. Just like, sounds like the old cinnamon test. You get a spoonful of cinnamon and you try to swallow it. Ugh. But maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. Can you put it in gravy or something? Does that do the same thing? Little mayo, maybe. I don't know. Just eating a spoonful of pollen sounds just about as fun as licking a toilet seat or something. I'm sorry. I realize it's probably very sound advice. I don't mean to be cheeky about it, but it does sound like I would have never heard that before. He says the raw honey has pollen in it, part of why it kills the allergens. Oh, I appreciate that. Okay. I mean, I understood that as well, but yeah, I think I'd prefer it through the honey. But no, I guess that's an option. How do you collect pollen? I mean, where do you get it from? Other than, do I like pick pine needles and start licking them, or how does that work exactly? And I know that sounds stupid, but I don't know how you collect pollen to eat it. But just a thought. Let me know. Check out Elise's comments. What did she say? Farm said, lick your windshield. Are you freaking crazy? I think I might get a lot sicker if I lick my windshield because the birds happen to use it as a toilet often. So we'll skip that technique. Thank you. All right, let's check out the Uwharrie National Forest Bigfoot encounters. These are recent reports. An eyewitness who camps in the Uwharrie National Forest, North Carolina, Yates Place Campground, has had at least 2 Bigfoot encounters during the past few weeks. Sorry. I recently received the following on Monday, April 18th, 2022. It says, the recent Bigfoot sighting at Montgomery County in North Carolina was at Lowwater Bridge in Montgomery County in the Uwharrie National Forest. Yates Place Campground at the same time. I have a lot of information if you'd like to contact. I only saw it once, but I had a lot of encounters at my tent and campsite with it, and can tell you a lot about how nature changed and the animals' behavior. I can give you a lot of information. So I don't know if we already covered this. I think we did, actually. I think I already read this on the last show, so I'm going to skip this one. And if we need to, we can go and read more of those. Yeah, I know we covered this one on the last show. My apologies. I just forgot to close that tab. Here's the next one. Gowoggle, Central Pennsylvania's canine-like cryptid. Now, this is a new name. I've never heard of Gowoggle. But it does sound like they're talking about a dog man. Again, regional names are often utilized in regional areas, so it may not sound like they have dogmen in certain areas, but it's because they might have a different name for it. All right, so recently received the following information. I'll be honest, I've never heard of the Gowoggle, though I do know that there are different monikers applied to local cryptids, especially here in Pennsylvania. And this is from author Lou Bernard. And I guess he's the one that put together this article. Lon, I'm a writer and paranormal investigator from Central Pennsylvania, Lock Haven specifically. I read with some interest your piece on the dogman sightings of Clearfield County, and I feel that may tie in with another old legend from the area. Clearfield County borders on Clinton County, where I live, and the official monster of Clinton County is a sort of hybrid dogman called Gowoggle. Legends of this thing were in West Keating Township back in the 1800s, where an old woman named Belle Confer told her grandchildren bedtime stories about the thing. Her grandson, George Rode, was so affected by the stories that he grew up to write them down in Keystone Folklore Quarterly, preserving them for future generations. The Gowoggle is not the easiest creature in the world to physically describe. It was about 6 feet tall, shaped like a wolf, and stood on its back legs instead of front paws. It had bird claws, and instead of back feet, it had horse hooves. This was to confuse trackers trying to follow it. The legends all involved local women who were believed to be witches casting spells to conjure up one of these things when a nearby farmer offended them. They would send the Gowoggle to harass the farmer, which often took the form of annoying stunts and petty vandalism. The Gowoggles didn't seem to be violent for the most part. Farmers would wake up and find their crops trampled, tools damaged, and Gowoggle tracks around the barn. In one of my favorite bits, a farmer found his cows frightened and trying to smoke a portion of a cornstalk. There's a picture of what the gowoggle may have looked like. Yeah, I don't know. This is anyway. Let's continue. But to sum it up, the escaped Southern slaves who settled that area of Clinton County believed the gowoggle was an upright dogman conjured by a witch. It had the hands of the bird and the feet of a horse, and there were many stories of this thing, including an incident where it was sighted on a downtown rooftop in 1909. One man who was said to hunt the gowoggles, there was more than one, was Loop Hill Ike, or Isaac Gaines. Gaines is buried in a cemetery on the Clearfield County line, very near where these dogman sightings are taking place. I've often speculated that the gowoggle could be more than just an old legend, and perhaps these dogmen are gowoggles, or sticking near the grave of their old adversary. Interesting. Thought you'd be interested, Lou Bernard. That is interesting. These old local folk tales are interesting, but I don't think that they're necessarily completely accurate, but they may be just exaggerations or embellishments of stories being told and retold and retold. The old telephone thing, where you sit in a line of people and whisper things to each person, and the story at the front of the line and the back of the line are compared, and they're like two different stories. So is this a case of telephone in the folklorist sense, like where things are added or embellished or omitted and other things are inserted instead? And perhaps, it is just the dogmen, but again, it's more of a regional moniker. So I think that's interesting. Gowoggles. Now I have heard about it, gowoggles. I was today old when I learned about gowoggles. Another thing that I've learned since doing the Paranormal Portal. And you were here for it. Maybe for me, but for it. Let's get to the next one. And this is Alien Contact, the day Shemikas Itwa called. And Shemikas Itwa is the name of an alien, I assume. This reporting does not concern the sighting of a UFO-type craft, but a telephone call from a man purporting to be an alien being. My wife and I were told about him by a female friend living in Chicago who had become his acquaintance. The call lasted approximately 1 hour, during which time he explained his origin, how he came to this planet, its people's purpose in being here, and how he currently occupied the body of a man born on Earth. During the conversation, he also answered a number of my questions about his view of our civilization, the amount of time he and those of his particular race had been on Earth, the number of his people living among our population, and certainly questions regarding history and current events. The gentleman was astonishingly clear and logical in his expression, almost like a scientist or professor. He also seemed almost Spock-like in his lack of emotion. Should you wish to have a more thorough report, I can send in more detail the topics of our conversation. It's been about 13 years, but I believe I can recall a number of points he made. Thank you, sincerely, name deleted, Bellevue, Washington. This is from New Force. We have met with the source of the reports, and we deem him to be a serious-minded source. Addendum from same individual who submitted report. I'm going to break the rules as far as filing this more detailed report of my conversation with the gentleman from Chicago. I apologize in advance because I know you are highly disciplined in your work. It is just that I'd like to get this to you via your personal email. In truth, I'm a real amateur of the workings of the internet. As you will read, I will include the names of both the extraterrestrial being as well as the man whose body he purported to occupy, who is now, as of about a decade ago, deceased. I will leave it to your discretion whether you wish to include that purportedly occupied person's name. Taco, Tacco, is that right? Or am I mispronouncing that? I don't know. And I sat down together to put in place the clear memories of what was shared. We know that we've lost certain things that were said, to our great regret, but what is written to you is quite accurate according to the gentleman's statements and claims. So, let's get into what was shared. In the summer of 1997, I received a call from a Philippine-born woman in Chicago, a longtime friend who once babysat for our children, with regard to an older gentleman she had met. The gentleman, she told us, identified himself initially as Eugene Randall and lived in the Chicago suburbs. She, being of an extraordinarily open and pure nature, invited him to her family's residence to take more time to visit. As a matter of fact, Mr. Randall visited our friend and her family quite regularly after the initial meeting. It was in the course of these visits that Mr. Randall told our friend that he indeed wasn't of this world, and identified himself as, I believe it is called a walk-in, by the name of Shamikis Etois. After a number of these visits by the gentleman, our friend called us to share the matter, and by the end of our phone call, I asked her if this person would mind calling me directly. She said she thought it was possible and that he seemed to be quite open to share with those who were open to him. And she said she'd ask him. Several nights later, we received a call from Shamikis Etois. The following is a list of recollections and personal impressions I had from the phone call. 1. My first impression was that I was talking to a very serious and almost professional individual who didn't express much emotion. He seemed almost Spock-like. There was no feeling of his being delusional or inconsistent. He spoke in measured tones and answered my questions without hesitation or wasted words. Shemikas, from now on S, said that he came from a planetary system somewhere in the vicinity of what we call the North Star. He said that he traveled to our planet on one of a few very large motherships. I believe he mentioned that he'd actually been born en route to our solar system. It was hard for me to believe, but he gave his age as about 3,000 years old. When I asked about his civilization's beliefs in the Supreme Being, he immediately answered in the affirmative. He then went on to explain that there was a time when his people were not good. I believe he even used the word evil, and that they tended to be self-destructive as well as destructive to other civilizations. However, not long ago, before the journey to Earth, a priest among his people began to teach a path of goodness, that somehow had a great impact for the good of his people, went through a tremendous change, and left behind their negativity. He mentioned that his people were more than a little concerned with the elements of self-destruction on our planet, and wished to help us evolve as a species as they did long ago. I took this to mean in the sense of consciousness and spirituality. When I asked how his people look at us, he hesitated for a moment and then said that it is how we may look at primitive tribes in our own world. He explained that those among his race who are now on the earth have come here with the help of earth people who are aware of them and who have voluntarily offered their bodies and persona as vehicles for these aliens. S spoke in glowing terms of Eugene Randall, who had offered himself for S. Note, I could see that this whole matter of Earth people contributing their bodies was entirely of their own free volition, and not anything like a hostile takeover, i.e. 1950s horror classic Invasion of the Body Snatchers. He also mentioned a Russian man who years ago, during the Soviet period, had done what Eugene had done. The same admiration and gratitude was expressed for his courage and sacrifice. I don't remember the details of the Russian man's story. I asked how many of his people were on Earth in the capacity mentioned above. He estimated it to be about 8,000 living in Seattle. And I asked if he knew how many may be in the Puget Sound area. He said he didn't know, and that they were not all in good contact with one another. I got the feeling that this race of people had been among us for a very long time, according to his conversation. He did mention that there was a way for me to find someone if he wished. He explained that there is a symbol that his race uses, and went on to explain it. It has two squares, one over the other, something similar to the Jewish Star of David, only the squares are juxtaposed. One drawn straight up and down, and the other rotated so that the corners of the second square extend out past the middle of each of the first star's midlines. So you end up with an 8-pointed star shape. S told me that if I put this symbol on my car window, I may be approached and asked where I learned the symbol. That may be one of our people, he told me. He expressed the serious concern about his race for our use of nuclear power and said that even the most peaceful use of nuclear reactors is very harmful to the cosmos. Nuclear war is just a horror, as he expressed it, not just for us, but for others in our cosmos. He said we didn't begin to understand the problems nuclear energy creates. He also mentioned a concern for Mideastern wars and the use of chemical weapons, though I didn't learn just how. Said that his people have ways to counteract the weapons we build. He mentioned their spoiling of chemical weapons stockpiles in Iran. He had some trouble getting this. The flood of Noah was mentioned. He explained that one of their larger spaceships had lost its bearings and crashed in the Arctic regions, causing a tremendous and sudden meltdown of ice and subsequent flooding of portions of the globe. I assumed a tremendous explosion and release of energy, and this, he said, was a contributing factor to the flood. Situations in cohabitation with Earth people, it was also mentioned to me that there was a history of commingling between members of his race and Earth people. In particular, he mentioned that there were cases of this in the Philippine Islands, modern name, and that quite a few hybrid children were born as a result. Lineages continue to this day. An interesting note is that he mentioned our former babysitter who he had first met and who had called us about him was one of that hybrid lineage. I asked him if there were any other extraterrestrial civilizations near Earth at this time, and he said that there are, and that, unlike his own people, they don't all have their personal problems worked out. While his civilization had only the desire to help us to develop a positive direction, there are others who would use us for cruel experimentation, almost like animal labs, and even practice self-gratifying abuse with our people. Certain horrible abduction experiences, possibly. That's his reflection. He maintained that his people try to drive off these evil races when possible. A humorous incident, he has a brother, he told me, named Andronicus, and said that one day in downtown Chicago, they were in an elevator in a high-rise building and somehow were in their original forms. A businessman suddenly entered the elevator, looked at them in shock, and blurted out, "Where'd you come from?" Andronicus, who was just shaken up, reacted with, "Well, from my mother." He did mention that if I saw him in his original form that I might be startled, though I got the sense that it's not that far from our own earthly bodies. He visited our friend, the Philippine woman, many times in the form of Eugene Randall. She told me in a phone call sometime after my call with him that he came to her home one afternoon to help celebrate her birthday. After a while, he expressed weariness and asked if he could take a rest. She put him on a bed that she and her husband slept in. Soon a group of church friends came by to say happy birthday and saw this unknown man on her bed. They became outraged and spread gossip about her. When she later told him what happened, he became sad and upset at the same time. He told our friend, and I paraphrase here, how long have our people been here on this planet working to help you and you still don't understand the meaning of friendship and trust? Several years ago, our friend called and told us that Eugene Randall had been found dead in his apartment by a neighbor. What of Shemikas? I have no idea, nor does she. What do you think? Was this Shemikas Etwa an actual visitor from another world or reality? I don't know. Those are tough. Those are tough things to really understand, I guess, because they are certainly fantastical tales, and it requires a great leap of faith in the possibilities. And I don't pretend to know either way. Are there perhaps a spiritual based or energetic based extraterrestrial beings or beings that can meld themselves within a person's body? Maybe. I mean, I don't know. That's some way out there stuff to consider. I mean, it's one thing if they're just here, right? So it's one thing to think, are they really visiting us? And I firmly believe yes, because of course I've had experiences to that effect. But that doesn't mean that, every other fantastical idea has to be legitimate either. It doesn't mean it's illegitimate, but it's just, I guess it depends on you, the individual. Can you accept the idea that maybe an extraterrestrial intelligence could merge with you and walk through your life with you or take your life over? I don't know. It's anybody's guess. Maybe. You guys will have to let me know in the comments or in the chat. What do you think? Do you think it's real? Do you think there was a Shemikas Etwa? Or do you think this was just a fantastic embellishment by a creative mind? Could be. I don't know. I don't pretend to know. Lori, yes? So they got dang sure eyes, sure yes, and some people in the know call their tech pure magical. Sure, there's that. Again, I've thought about this many times. What does technology that's thousands or hundreds or millions of years more advanced than ours look like? And you're right, it would look like magic. That's certainly legitimate. How long do you think they've been visiting? 1940s, hundreds of years? I think thousands personally. I don't know that all of the same ones have been here for that long, but I think that Earth has seen many different intelligence come by and check us out. I don't think that. I know a lot of people say, well, it all started in the 40s, and I don't know why. A lot of people believe that perhaps the nuclear bombs dropped during the end of World War II signaled through the cosmos that we had come of age of a sort and brought in a lot of interested extraterrestrial neighbors. And maybe there's merit to that. There very well could be. I don't know how far an event like that travels throughout the universe. Maybe it's an energetic thing that's instantaneous in the form of some form of quantum entanglement or whatever. Maybe it's in shock waves that are just instantaneous out into the cosmos. And they went, wait, what was that? Did you guys feel that? Disturbance in the force or whatever? And maybe it does. But I think there's merit to the ancient astronaut theories. I think that perhaps we've been helped, or perhaps there was beings that were already here before we were. Again, one of the most fascinating topics for me is the whole artifacts out of time. I think that's just incredible, the opportunity to find technology embedded in hundreds of million-year-old stones, whether it's tools or implements or materials that weren't discovered by us until much, much, much later, like aluminum, which was the last century was figured out. Being found in machined aluminum being found next to mastodon skulls in fossil fields. So it's how long are they here? I think they've been here an awful long time, or some version has been here for a long, long time and coming and going. I don't know. I think they perhaps, there's merit to the idea that we're kind of the cosmic zoo in a way. Watch these guys evolve. Come on. It's like field trips coming by to check out what we're doing now. Maybe that's interesting. I think there's possibility for that. Sure. Do the reptilians wipe out the ant people? I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know. I suppose there's possibility that there's very warlike factions of these things, but I like to believe that if they're here, they're probably so much more advanced than us, not only technologically, but hopefully emotionally and sociologically. Like, they're not here just to, kick over the anthill. I don't know. Some people really get into that, and maybe they're right. I'm just telling you, I don't know. If they are as advanced and capable as they are, and if they've learned as much as they would have to learn, being perhaps millions of years advanced to us, could they really still be evil, or could they be more sociopathic? Maybe they just don't care. Maybe we're not. Maybe we don't have a lot of value as a species to them because we are very primitive in their eyes. Perhaps it's hard to say, but whatever the case is, it's certainly an interesting possibility. What's that old artifact of a little airplane made out of gold is mind-blowing. I forgot how old it was, like thousands of years, beyond coincidence. Yeah, that's, I think, from ancient Egypt, or perhaps it was from South America. One of the two is the one I think he's talking about. And there's an old, and apparently aerodynamically it works. Like, if it was made out of the correct materials, it would fly. But, who knows? Could they have invented flight way back then? Maybe Earth was home to other races, again, that just moved on. Maybe there was cataclysms. Maybe some of the cataclysms from our long distant history that wiped out dinosaurs. Maybe those were the same events that led them to leave because they could because they were sophisticated and advanced enough that they could go to another planet and live while this all reset and reemerged. You know, I think that that's certainly a possibility as well. We were other races. Yeah, that's another possibility. Did we come from somewhere else? Were we seeded here? Were we a created experiment? Who knows? Again, there's a lot of ideas floating out there, and it's not a judgment. It's really not. I don't pretend to be right or wrong. I don't know. I don't know the answer to these things for sure, but I think they're all fantastically interesting. I think they're all fantastically interesting. And right or wrong, who knows? But what I do know is that it's just about time to close down the shop, folks. We've cruised through another night of the Paranormal Portal. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I enjoy it. This is the way I started doing the portals. I love when Sheldon or Don can be here. I think it's fun. It's a lot more entertaining for me to bounce things off of them and to instantaneously have that interaction. I love talking to you guys on the chat too. I think that's amazing as well. It's just that there's a lag and it creates a bit of a pause and hesitation. But this is how I started. I started doing the portals just like this, just me and a whole bunch of stories and ideas and a lot of talking and looking for interaction. So I'm just so thrilled you guys are here with me and going through every portal with me. So many of you guys are just regulars, and that to me is exciting. It's like getting together with friends. It's like, this is like my Cheers, the old TV show Cheers. It's like where everybody knows your name. That's what it feels like starting every show. It's like, dun, da, 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 da. It's the theme song for Cheers for any of you younger folk out there. But I really enjoy show and chat. Yeah, me too. Thank you. Lava Time. I appreciate it. And if you're new here, if you just happened into the portal, you're like, what is this? I saw the show was live. I want to check it out. And if you like what you're seeing, please get subscribed. Again, we do 3 live shows a week, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. And generally, Sheldon or Don will be with me when we do those, but sometimes it'll just be me. And that's okay, because it's still me and you. We're together. You're a part of this whole event. And I love that you guys take part in the conversations as well. That to me is really powerful. It just makes it so much more fun. Even though we didn't have a call, and if we did have a call that I missed, I apologize. Sometimes I get wrapped into the articles, and I got 3 screens of things going on here. So it's like this one, this one, this one. And, my attention sometimes gets tunnel vision. So thanks for a great time again. Well, thank you for being here, Ghost Magnet. I appreciate it. We're all connected anyways. We are. You're absolutely right, Drop. I appreciate that. So get subscribed, Drop. I know you're a newer listener, so there's no excuse. You better be coming back. Just saying. All of you guys better be coming back. I want to see more and more. In fact, Friday show is Bring a Friend night. I keep throwing that out there. I keep hoping you guys bring friends. It's not that the portal needs to be big, but it's certainly the more of you guys there are that are contributing and being part of the shows, the more dynamic they become. And quite honestly, as the shows grow, so will the ability of me to do more things with the portal, more investigative things, more events, more things like that, where we'll get a chance to get out and meet some of you people as well. And that to me is exciting. So get involved, get subscribed, ring the bell so you get the notifications. Again, next week, next Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and the following Wednesday, there won't be a live show, but I will be doing live streams when I can. I'm working on something that's hopefully going to really be exciting. So I hope you guys will tune in when I do those live streams. I'll do them as often as I can, and hopefully we'll have a great time to show you what I'm up to. So anyway, at any rate, I think that's about going to wrap up the show tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you've had a good time. And thank you again for being here. It really means the world. Turn on the lights and see so many of you guys showing up. That is exciting and fun every time. So there's 70 of you here right now. God bless you. Love y'all. Thank you. be sure to tell a friend. If you want to help support what we're doing, share the episodes if you wouldn't mind. If you belong to any groups where the paranormal is the topic, share the videos there, or at least share the news that there is a channel called the Paranormal Portal. I'd appreciate it a bunch. But anyway, that's all I got for you guys tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. Thanks so much for keeping me company in this 2-hour episode of the Paranormal Portal as we hurtled through the depths of the unknown and the impossible and the possible. Impossible possibilities, perhaps. I don't know. Does that even make sense? But I'm going to go take some antihistamines and think happy thoughts. And I'll see you on Friday night. Don should be here. And then Saturday, Sheldon will be here with me. So tune in on those nights, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, right here on YouTube. Check out our podcast, which is audio only. This is not the podcast. This is the YouTube show. The podcast is available on all the major platforms, iHeart, iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Castbox, and a whole bunch of other ones. So find us out there. The latest episode was one where I talked to a person who had an actual encounter with a vampire twice in his life. 2 different vampires by the sounds of it, but it's the first time. And I researched the hell out of vampires for a long time, trying to find information for the shows, and generally just found a bunch of counterculture, the goth counterculture, where people put on teeth and play vampire, and a bunch of very, very historical accounts. But I couldn't find any really valid, more recent encounters. And then this gentleman reached out to me, Paul, via email. He didn't tell me. He didn't qualify what his experience was. He just said, "What do you think I experienced?" And went on to lay out this incredible narrative of what he lived through. And I was like, "Oh my God, I believe you've encountered an actual vampire." And he wrote back and was like, "Yeah, I didn't want to say that word because most people think that I'm absolutely crazy, but this is what I experienced." So check out that episode. It's available on all the major platforms. It was an incredible conversation. It's a really unnerving one as well, to think that they are actually out there too. But anyway, check it out. And just remember, I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out, especially in this day and age. We need lots of love in the world, man. So spread all the goodness you can everywhere you go. Remember to find the magic in every day and laugh as much as you can. Good night, everybody. Love you guys. I'll see you Friday night.